Hi, on this episode of Business is Personal, I have Mohamed Khaled, who is the CEO and founder of Hotdesk. And it's actually a really cool app, and it's a really necessary thing for people like me. And if you're an entrepreneur or an employee, we're gonna talk to you about how to curate your work or business environment. If you're a company that has a decentralized workforce now, then we're gonna talk to you about how you can save some costs. And if you have a large office space and you're not utilizing all of it, we're gonna talk to you about how you can monetize. Do you feel disconnected at work? Are you feeling exhausted? Almost like you hate your job and secretly, maybe your boss too? This is Business is Personal, a blueprint to discovering and creating meaning at work in collaboration with Smashy TV, a live streaming service in the Middle East for the driven, the dreamers, and the doers. Hi, welcome back. This is Business is Personal, and with me today is Mohamed Khaled. He is the CEO and founder of Hotdesk, and a great entrepreneur, and actually a really just fun guy to talk to. So I'm excited to invite you into this conversation, and we're going to talk about environments and entrepreneurship and making better use of our spaces. So welcome, Mohamed. Thank you so much.
No, thank you so much, Corrie, for having me. I mean, it's amazing to be here, and I super love the name of the whole show, right? Business is personal.
It's true.
It's very intriguing, very nice. I want to understand more about that's how I felt
as an entrepreneur, you'll get this, right?
Well, yeah.
I'm an entrepreneur as well. I've started 5 companies of my own and exited them. And what really irritated me when I was starting up my companies was when I was like pitching something, a service or a product for the first time. And people would say, oh, no, we're not going to go with you. Don't worry, it's not personal, it's just business. And I'm like, screw you, man. My family eats from that business.
It is personal.
For an entrepreneur, especially, all business is deeply personal. And I think even for large companies, right, there's no such thing as a company that makes a decision where another company doesn't either benefit from it or get hurt by it. And then all of their members either benefit or get hurt by it. So I think all business is personal, but I appreciate that.
No, 100%. And I mean, just to add to that quickly, I mean, even if you look at as a startup grows, right, there's a certain life cycle. And if you look at the names of each stage in that life cycle, they go like idea, pre-seed, seed, and then it turns into a function of growth. So the naming convention changes into series A, B, C. But what I want to say is not just the business angle, there's also a personal angle to that. It starts off as an idea, a belief inside you.
Well, how did Hotdesk start for you?
Okay, so I'll give a quick intro to myself and then jump right into Hotdesk. So I'm an Irish-born Egyptian, funnily enough, probably the only one out there. And
where in Ireland were you born?
I was born in Dublin. Okay. I spent a very long 10 days over there, and then continued my life just in Cairo. Graduated from the American University in Cairo.
Nice.
From accounting, so I focused on accounting. And then I started my career with PwC, sort of like audit and consulting hybrid resource. Right. So the first day at PwC, I walk through the door. I'm like, hey guys, where's my office? Obviously, I'm this little kid that just graduated, and obviously there is no private office for me. But I walk in, and they're like, oh no, you're still starting off. You have a desk. I'm like, fine. So which desk is mine? Again, just watching movies as we grow up, etc. We always have this stereotype that the desk you own will have your family pictures.
Exactly.
But they're like, no, listen. So you're a consultant, and what this means is you need to be out at clients, right? So we hire more people than the capacity of the office, since everyone is always out. And then we sort of rotate on these desks. So they were like, no, basically you're going to Hotdesk. And that was actually 5-6 years before I actually came up with the idea of Hotdesk, but that seed stuck with me all the way through.
Right, okay. Yeah, because it's interesting because as humans, we're territorial. And we want to know which space is ours so we can like put our stuff around them. But I love the name, Hotdesk, because it's familiar to me already. And I'm surprised that nobody's used it actually for an app.
Yeah, and we trademarked it, so that's amazing.
That's amazing. That was really well played, actually.
Yeah.
So are you in other countries as well? Yeah,
so right now Hotdesk is present in 30 countries across 117 cities, primarily Europe, Middle East, a bit of Asia and Africa as well.
That's amazing.
So that's where we are. I mean, again, it's growing sporadically. So just to tell you about how this all came to life and how it started to grow into what it is today. So just when I was in PwC, so I started off in Cairo, then I moved to Abu Dhabi, Doha, and Dubai, and I was more of a regional resource.
Right.
And whenever I'd go to a new city that I have been there before, I would just take out my PwC ID. I'd walk in, open the door, just tap my card, and I'd walk into a place where the brand is so familiar. I know where the coffee machine is.
Right.
Everyone else is on a ThinkPad laptop. It just felt like home instantly.
That's right.
And then one late night, I was like, whoa, this is massive. I have this power just because I'm part of a bigger consulting network.
Sure.
How do I create something that gives this to the masses?
Sure.
And back then, that was September 19, back then the masses were freelancers, global nomads. The use case primarily revolved around startups, etc.
Right.
But then hit COVID, March 2020, and everyone suddenly became our target audience.
That's right. Because people they're shedding their commercial spaces now because they realize they don't need them. A lot of people work from home. And for me, I work from home. My office is my briefcase. And I'm one of those lucky solopreneur entrepreneurs that gets to work from basically wherever I am, which is nice. But the challenge is that I don't do my best work at home because it's too close to the fridge, too close to the couch, too close to the TV. I really need to get away from that environment in order to be as productive as I possibly can be. And so for me, like finding a cafe or a shared workspace or something like that is amazing. And Hotdesk gives me the opportunity to like individualize that space, right? So you said before you were like doing some stuff in development for individualization of environment. Tell us about that.
So 100%. So I mean, what Hotdesk does, it just shows you the entire availability of co-working spaces in your city or even globally if you're traveling around.
Does it have to be like a shared space like WeWork?
So ultimately, we have 3 pillars of supply. One of them is, the pure on co-working that are ready to use. This is already sort of the business model. They're set up for this. Right. And that's what we've primarily been doing. There's a second step of office sharing, right? So if you have this large company that has an additional floor or additional set of desks or rooms, etc., that they're not using and they're stuck in this lease, what they could do is take pictures of it, drop it on the platform, and start generating income on those otherwise underutilized spaces.
So it's a bit like an Airbnb, but for commercial spaces.
Exactly. And that's how we pitch it, that we are the Airbnb of offices. This instantly gives you the understanding of the entire model because we're all familiar with Airbnb.
You know what we have here in the UAE that it irritates me just a little bit is the big man desk.
Yeah.
Right? Those huge corner offices with a big oak desk. It's like, I've had one before actually. So I went in first day on my new job as the managing consultant for a company, walked in, sat down, and the secretary says, "Is everything to your liking?" And I said, "No." She said, what's the problem? I said, "This huge desk. Can we just burn the desk and get me a round table and 5 chairs, all exactly the same, and just cover all of the walls in whiteboard?" Whoa. So yeah, but I was wondering if I wanted to take pictures of myself behind a really big man desk, can I find that on?
So that's what you could do. You could go on. No. So seriously, what Hotdesk does is you can curate your own space.
Yes.
You can go in and you can filter that. Okay, look, I want a 5-person meeting room in downtown, and then you could even choose your noise levels, that you want a place, let's say, that the working space itself is a little bit noisy. Maybe that's what gets you productive.
So you can choose your level of noise.
Your level of noise, if you want an outdoor area within the workspace.
That's so helpful.
Yeah. You can see if they have free coffee, if they have, what amenities do they have? Do they have a projector inside that room? Do they have HDMI cable? Do they have a USB-C cable? Is parking free? Is there even parking available, or should I go by taxi? So we give you check-in instructions on. Because you have a meeting, or the thing about Hotdesk is, if you open Instagram, let's say, right, you're probably doodling around.
Right.
If you open up Hotdesk, you're doing something, right? Something is up. You're here to get something done, whether it's a meeting, whether you want to take a call in private or without too much noise or distractions, whether you're meeting your team, whatever the reason, an office for a year for a company, you're there to get things done. And we need to help you get things done as best as possible. So we'll give you check-in instructions. We'll notify you that, hey, take care of the parking. This is time critical. You only have an hour meeting room, etc. This is what you should do. And then our operational team helps sort of with this operational excellence to make sure that you get there on time and everything.
Okay, so that's super helpful because I need a specific kind of environment to get into flow. Flow state is the subject of my next book. And actually, I'm doing research with some of my executive coaching clients on how they get into flow, and I'm seeing if I can help them curate their environment. Because you need a certain level of ambient chaos in order to get into flow, and you need a certain level of ambient noise to get into flow. And so for some people, it's like they need complete silence, they need to be totally left alone, they need to have nothing moving in their peripheral vision and nothing that they can hear, right? So they need that quiet space and they need to curate that environment to get there, and it's very difficult to curate that. Me, I need chaos. So I work very well in cafes, I work very well in busy office environments where very often with my clients, I'll just take a desk in their Hotdesk places and I'll just sit down and start working wherever they are, wherever the people are. And that works really well for me to get into flow. I can snap in very quickly. But this I mean, being able to curate that kind of space online and choose the space that I want to, I think it would be really helpful.
Yeah, you set it up the way you want it.
Yeah. So those entrepreneurs, like if you're a coder or an entrepreneur or whatever, if you get into a flow state, you know, you're 500% more productive. Did you know that?
Wow.
McKinsey did this study over like 10 years, and they found that executives and managers that can consistently use flow are 5 times more productive than executives and managers that don't consistently and intentionally use flow. Well, so it's a huge skill.
It becomes your life, right? Like, I mean, again, startups in particular, you know, there's insane amounts of passion and emotion behind all of this. And you're so focused and you love it so much and you really want to build it the best way that you don't even notice it, but then you fall into this flow style of work. In the long term, and you're just on it, you're just doing things day in, day out, day in, day out. You're just in this flow sort of mechanism. The word does not exist. What exists is your idea, and you can see that end goal shining.
Oh, I know. My wife used to get so annoyed with me because I'd be sitting on my laptop, right, for hours, staring at my laptop doing this, right? And you've got it too, I'm sure of it. And then suddenly my wife would come up behind the screen and she'd say, Corrie. And then I would look up, but I wouldn't be looking at her yet. I'm still thinking about other things and my prefrontal cortex is still shut down. Okay? So she said she'd have this experience of like, she's looking at me, but I'm not seeing her.
Yes.
And then suddenly, it would take about 15, 20 seconds. Suddenly, like I would come alive behind my eyes and she could see me again. Yeah. She's like, okay, there you are. You know? That's when you know you've just had the best work day ever, right? 100%. You've just spent 4 hours. You look at your watch, you're like, oh, 4 hours has gone by. And you've been super ultra productive because you've found yourself in the flow state because you've got the right task and you've got the right environment. And that ability to curate your environment is such a huge tool. Yes. And I love that about Hotdesk, that you can like be very specific about the kind of environment that you want. Yeah,
100%. And I mean, just to give a bit more information, so on Hotdesk, so primarily you could choose between desks, meeting rooms, or private offices by the hour, day, month, or year. So you can, depending on your needs, it can be across the world, it can be across the street.
How does that work for privacy? Like for the companies that are involved, like if you put a section of your floor, because some people are off on a project or whatever, you want to put a section of your floor up as hot desks. How does that work for privacy for the companies that are putting these spaces up?
Okay, so primarily our 2 sort of pillars of supply, right? So in co-working, again, this is just their normal business. Right. Let's say a WeWork, a Regus, or if you actually think about it, 86% of the co-working space market are sort of decentralized, scattered stores. They're not the WeWorks and Reguses of the world.
Right.
For them, it's just business as usual. But if you look at, let's say, the whole model of office sharing, similar to Airbnb, ultimately that responsibility then lies on the host themselves. So if that host has a floor and they are fine with a bit of noise, then that's what they do. If they want to segregate it in a way that basically the customers can walk in to that section, do their working piece, maybe in a meeting room or whatever it is. Yeah, but it's entirely up to them what they are willing to provide, what they are willing to accept, and they can set down their rules, or this is our space, this is what we do, this is what we expect, this is what we have and what we offer, and there's a dual rating mechanism between customers and hosts as well. So if you're a noisy customer and people don't like you, then you get a bad rating, and that's how you sort of seed out the bad apples within a marketplace business.
That's amazing. When did the Hotdesk thing start for you? Like, when did the journey start? You left PwC how long ago?
So I left PwC 31st of December 2020.
2020.
Yeah, 2020.
Wow, okay.
But the idea is this: when I built Hotdesk, right? Yeah. Or was building it, I came back home after this massive eureka moment of realizing that we need to create this for the masses. And I just sit on my laptop and start opening up a company in the US. It started off as a Delaware C Corp.
Yeah, sure.
It's now incorporated here in the IFC, our HQ. But when I started to build it, I had to make a decision, right? So again, I have kids, I have a family, I live in Dubai, super expensive. Want to build out the startup to a reasonable stage before I go out and get funding back then. So I had to make a tough decision that I need to continue to work my day job as I'm building PwC. And this is what you get, on the fancy stories.
You mean building Hotdesk?
Sorry. Well, building PwC is too big anyway.
You're also building PwC while you're building Hotdesk. Yeah, that's true.
Exactly.
Yes.
But I mean, the entire idea is it's not a fairy tale, right? Businesses require effort, hard work, commitment. So I had to live this double life for from September 2019 to December 2020, while I was in PwC just building Hotdesk at night.
And they were not aware, I imagine.
No, they were actually. So I'm obviously.
They were supportive?
Some people yes, some people no. I think it was it was personal, depending
of course.
Again, business is personal, right? It was depending on who this person is, what they do. I think ultimately as PwC, they were fine as long as this isn't something that conflicts with what PwC does. And I give in a lot more than my 8 hours as well. So that's fine.
Well, presumably PwC itself has a lot of hot desks, and maybe they would want to repurpose some of those rather than letting go of the leases as well.
Well, they could be a big client. We'll see that.
It's right. They could be a big client. But your family, they stayed with you during all of this? Working two full-time jobs? I've often said that starting a business is like having a child. You've had both, right? So you started a company, you've had a baby. The first 2 years is just screaming and crying, and it needs attention all the time. You're always trying to save it from killing itself, and nobody says thank you. And you don't sleep, and you barely eat. And it's like it's crazy. Okay,
a baby.
Yes, yeah. But look, after a couple of years, it's got its own character. It'll start to walk around. It has its own thoughts and feelings, and you can leave it alone for a day, and it's not going to die. So that's.
So I mean, where we stand today. So right now, Hotdesk, we're about 37 people across Dubai, Dublin, Cairo, Karachi, Lahore, London. I mean, and the list is just growing. And Kuwait, I mean, like we're adding more people by the day, and it's massive, and it's become an entity of its own. It has all its different stakeholders. Again, the shareholders, the investors that have believed in this vision, invested in the company, our customers that believe in the product, the hosts that think we are their tool to monetization, which is a big, nice responsibility to have, and we love that. And then Hotdesk again transforms from being a baby or a startup into being sort of a more mature adult that walks on their own and just talks on their own.
Okay, so transparency time. Where do you work?
So where do I work? So I actually sit right inside WeWork, which is really funny. Sorry guys, that's the reality. So I mean, so the cool thing about Hotdesk is, Hotdesk is a tech-only product, right? We do not own any space. We do not lease any space. There's no capex, no furniture, nothing. Just some code and marketing and people.
Nice.
And we scale it. But ultimately, the thing I really liked about WeWork, rather than the business model, is in the actual product, the spaces themselves. They're beautiful. If you look at them, the way they're furnished, that light brown color, the ceilings that aren't closed up that give you a sense of space. All the walls are actually glass. So again, they curate that experience.
That's right.
Now we need to curate the same experience, but through a set of like logos and code and tech.
Right.
So how do we do that? So positioning ourselves within WeWork allows us to sort of actually live by what we preach, practice what we preach. We're inside the co-working space, we co-work ourselves. And we get to sense how they create that feeling, so we can create it in a tech version.
Is that your plan as you scale, is to maintain like no office space, no leases of your own?
Yeah, I mean, we will only have like very short, like very basic, smaller leases, no capex, no. Again, because ultimately, Hotdesk also isn't about, let's say, individuals, like freelancers or startups. It's a lot wider, right? Businesses have become smarter, leaner. Nobody wants a 10, 25-year lease. Nobody wants concrete boots where you're stuck if you're launching a new market or if you're expanding. You need to be able to scale and also descale when things go bad. Like you've seen what happened in COVID. And so businesses themselves are shifting a lot towards co-working.
Well, I read actually, I wish I could cite the article, but that there's a prediction that 70% of U.S. employment will be freelance within the next couple of decades. And I don't know if that's going to be true or not, but I think the trend is right. I think the trend toward, especially in white-collar jobs and office jobs, to move, and in creative spaces, creative jobs, to move toward a freelance and decentralized model that's all deliverable-based rather than presenteeist. I think it's a smart move. It makes the human race a little bit more efficient.
No, it makes sense. And even for those that don't turn into, let's say, contractors, the decision of where you work is decentralizing day by day, right? Yeah, historically, it would be just mandatorily forced, right? We went from the extreme work from office model to the extreme work from home. I think where we'll lie right now is, in the future, this is my guess, my bet is on hybrid. That will be a bit of everything. You have a bit of Metaverse, you have a bit of co-working and sort of going to, and working where you want to work. I mean, if that's going to help you with your output, then that's all we need.
So are you brokering digital spaces in the Metaverse already?
No. We might. We'll see.
I don't know. Sometimes I get the feeling like I might just be too old for the metaverse. And then I get these other, like I've got a couple of really great business ideas for it. So what's your take on that? Like, are you moving into that space?
Well, look, so as a business, obviously this needs a lot more sort of diligent thought and see where this is going, what we're going to do. We are flexible to sort of include more things across the spectrum. Let's put it that way. There's a lot of digitization happening on that front, but again, we leave that as. But me personally, I do believe the metaverse is needed. Like it allows you to sort of live through the digital versions of Google Meet and Zoom, etc., into a more sort of reactive base where you can get to see social cues and understand what's going on. Now, I don't think it's yet determined. There's a lot of talk about gaming on the metaverse. There's a lot of talk about NFTs on the metaverse. Maybe we're in a bit of a bubble. Nobody knows yet when we'll see where this is going.
Well, look, I've experimented with Second Life. I've played Fortnite. So the idea of an avatar of yourself out in a world that's not quite real, I think it's not new.
Yeah, it's been
right. It's just a different kind of space.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it's really cool, and I think if you could rent out spaces in a place that doesn't actually exist, I think that's genius.
Oh yeah, mastermind.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Oh, that's very cool. And how old is your kid?
So my Musa is 3.5.
Okay, so
if I get that, yes, he is 3.5.
Musa is 3.5. Amazing. Do you enjoy being a father?
Yeah, I do. Yeah. It's a full-time job.
For those of you who are entrepreneurs and also parents of young children, how is that for you?
So honestly, I think you need to just make sure that you continue to deliver to your family as long as
we talk a lot about. I talk about work-life blend. I don't like the idea of work-life balance.
Harmony.
I think it's
harmony. It's not balance, right?
That's
You cannot exclude work and sort of segregate it. Well, so historically, let's say back to the 60s, you'd finish work at 4 or 5 p.m.
Yep.
And that was it.
Yes.
And there was no means of communication to take work home with you. Yeah. But right now, work is all around us, right? It's in your mind, it's on your laptop, it's on your email, your WhatsApp. It's everywhere around you. So we need to stop acting like this does not exist. Yet at the same time, we need to make sure that we're not really either dropping our businesses, dropping our jobs, but also not dropping our families, which is super important. You need to be there. Again, kids need attention, need love. And that's our duty. I mean, we signed up for this, so this is what you do, and you give them a good life.
Brilliant. So let me ask you one more question then.
Please.
What makes your work most meaningful to you?
Honestly, the idea that I can create a culture and technology that enables people to control their lives. So that in our company at Hotdesk, when I see those working around me, sort of happy, flexible, able to take their decisions and run with them and test them out as if they're sort of like mini businesses within sort of Hotdesk, or choose where to work from or work from home or whatever it is, that just brings me joy. Because again, along the way in my employment sort of career, I realized that I missed control over my culture and my environment. And I think that's super important for me. And then by coincidence, Hotdesk does the same to its customers.
Brilliant.
Enables them to do that as well.
Yeah, it's brilliant. And it's helpful for me because I love to curate my environment and I like to work in different kinds of environments. And I think that's such a cool tool.
And we found a customer.
Yeah, right?
If you guys are watching, team, if you're watching this is our next customer. So let's go get him.
Market directly to me, you guys.
Yeah, I'll send you his email.
I am the customer. I am your exact client. And thank you so much for being
Thank you, Corrie. This is amazing. Thank you.
Yeah, this is really, really, really good fun. It's great getting to know you.
Thank you so much. Likewise. And again, business is personal.
It's true. Thank you so much. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Do you feel disconnected at work? Are you feeling exhausted? Almost like you hate your job and secretly maybe your boss too? This is Business is Personal, a blueprint to discovering and creating meaning at work in collaboration with Smashy TV, a live streaming service in the Middle East for the driven, the dreamers, and the doers.